Why veterinary medicine? I actually started in medicine, human medicine. I did actually 3 years. I noticed that I love the medicine side, but I wasn't really into dealing with some stuff with people. So I give it a try to veterinary school, and I say, you know what? I actually love these. I remember my first week was actually fighting and catching alligators. I was like, what? I got myself into it. So I'm Luis Morales Luna, one of the assistant professors for general practice, mostly equine. That's where I spend a lot of my time. So I grew up with, some of the European culture and the Guatemalan culture. Many of you don't know these, but I actually do have 2 citizenships. My family moved from Spain. It's kind of like an interesting story about moving from Spain to Cuba, from Cuba, Guatemala. My grandpa actually goes through, all the way from Canada all the way down to South America looking for a place. And I guess he fell in love in Guatemala. It's the weather, it's a small country, but it's majestic. There's so many things, but I would probably say medicine. I love going through a case from, not knowing what it is to see the outcome of having that patient going home. I love that part. Since I was a little kid, I was always around horses or cows. I was like, I love the movement of horses, and I was so intrigued about it. So of course, teaching, it takes a lot of your time, but once I go home, there's a couple things I love to do. Love riding, like motorcycles is my other passion besides horses. So on my free time, I like to go in a racetrack and just take some of that adrenaline off. I love cooking. That's a really good stuff for me. Like I can go home, I can be super tired, but cooking really relaxes me. I've done quite a bit of stuff. I've been around extreme sports since I was a little kid. I did martial arts. My last 5 years was professional fighting, so I actually got paid for that. I surf. I was a skateboarder at one time in my life. I played the drums. Can we stop for a second? I forgot the coffee. So I grew up in a coffee farm. My grandpa started the business, and then my dad he bought his own farm, and I was just helping my dad when I was growing up. Later in life, I started developing my own brand. There's a lot of fun facts. We have Spanish will be the main language, but of course they have 23 different languages, Mayan origin. Guatemala has a bunch of active volcanoes. You can camp in front of an active volcano. I mean, it's amazing. You can feel that boom. There's a second one that you can actually roast marshmallows on it. I have another interesting fact. So this is Tikal. It's one of the second biggest Mayan towns in Guatemala. Did you know that Tikal was in Star Wars? Did you know that the Happy Meal was invented in Guatemala? McDonald's is from the States, but a lady, she owned one of the McDonald's in Guatemala, so she developed that Happy Meal for the kids. So this is how some of the countryside looks like. You can imagine it was kind of hard for me coming from a place Guatemala actually means the land of trees. And Amarillo had no trees, so that was pretty cool. Independence Day for us is September 15th. It's quite a big holiday back home. Basically, it's the independence from Spain. What happens is that a lot of schools, they have marching bands. So you'll see all these going through on every single street. A lot of schools, they were gonna be picking the torch from one place, then running from one town to the next one and light the torch in that town. The Day of the Death for us, that's November the 1st, that's another big celebration. It's kind of different from Mexico in the sense of we have these very specific dish that's only eaten that day, which I wait every other day of the year. It's called fiambre, it's like a cold salad. And the history behind that one is that when people was going to visit their dead on the cemetery, all the families was getting together and just like everybody was bringing a different dish and they just started mixing all the stuff until it became fiambre. And then that same day, there's one town that they have these massive kites. I'm talking 30 feet tall, and it's, only for one day, and it's multicolored. This horse, I would say probably represents my time moving from Weatherford area to TTU. I mean, the TTU community has opened their arms to me so many ways that I keep this one in my office all the time. It's not just because it represents a horse, but it has the TTU there, so it has a great meaning to me. Probably a lot of people here in TTU knows me about the coffee. I don't call myself a coffee snob, but I just enjoy good coffee.